So, congratulations. Both of you are going to be parents. You are in the 5th month of pregnancy. Your question is, what is the advice for parents, somebody who will be parent? We learn so many things in school, engineering, mathematics, but how to become a good parent, we are not learned. And that's very important. Our ancestors understood the value of good parenting. How to have a child who is brilliant, who is very evolved. Because mother, the early part of the childhood influences the entire life of the child. So you're not just giving birth to a child, you are giving entire life to the child. Maybe after 9, 10, or after studying for something, child may go away from the father. But the parents are not just giving birth to the child, they're shaping the entire life of the child. This our ancestors knew very well. So that's why they had built a set of systems, set of processes for an evolved being. This process is called samskara. There are 16 samskara, Shodasha samskara. Samskara means a process, a refinement process. Like, for example, you have to extract gold. So gold is hidden in the mud. You have to purify the mud, you have to heat the mud. Finally, gold will emerge. From 1 ton of mud, 1 gram of gold will emerge. But it has to go through certain process. Similarly, to create a beautiful human being, or every evolved human being, there's a process, set of processes. These processes are called samskara. It starts with the garbhadana samskara. When the parents decide we want to have a child, conception of the child, it starts. Because at the time of conception of the child gets the imprint of the consciousness of the parents. So what consciousness you decide to conceive the child, it starts there. Then there is at the 7th month, Simanta is there, then Namakarana is there. Like that, there are many samskaras. Upanayanam is there, marriage is there. So there are many samskaras. The Shoda samskara is a different topic. But there are set of processes for developing a beautiful human being. The human being can be the human being can be very powerful being, very enlightened being, depends on the nature of the inputs you give. The input is called samskara. The way, when I say samskara means, the meaning of samskara is best practices or values which you imbibe in the child. So parents' responsibility is much, much larger than what you think. Giving birth of a child and sending them to school. It is much more than that. Out of that, the mother's responsibility is, mother plays a very significant role in the child's life. So we have heard of Swami Vivekananda, a great enlightened being. He was able to awaken the consciousness of the whole of India. So we give credit to Ramakrishna Paramahamsa as his guru. In fact, the larger part of the credit goes to his mother. So the mother used to tell the stories of divine beings, enlightened beings to the child. So that shaped the thinking of Vivekananda. So Ramakrishna Paramahamsa came at a later point. There are many stories in Puranas many stories in Indian culture where the child is educated in the womb of the mother. There's a Rishi called Vamadeva. Vamadeva Rishi, it is said that he was enlightened before birth. In the mother's womb itself, he got enlightened. He is born enlightened being. That's because the environment in which he was there, he was able to absorb wisdom. No doubt, probably he would have also been a very evolved soul which he came into the birth womb. Vamadeva Rishi is an example of enlightened child. Shukamuni, who is son of Vyasa Maharshi, is also born enlightened. There are many, many examples of enlightened beings born. Others people have to struggle for enlightenment for throughout their life. Child itself can be born enlightened. Right? So same is the story of Ashtavakra. Okay? The child was so sharp and evolved that in the mother's womb itself, he found that his father is doing some mistake in chanting mantra. He was able to try to correct it. So the child communicates to the mother by pushing and kicking. So when father is chanting the mantra wrongly, the child is to hit the mother. Wrong mantra. Or mantra pronunciation is not correct. So there is a communication which happens between the mother and the child. The child's brain development starts in the prenatal stage, 6 months, and goes up to 9 years. After that, brain develops, but more of intellectual development. I'm speaking of the core development of the brain. So when the brain is in the early state of development, very rapid connections happen. So that means there's an opportunity to learn, absorb. So when the child is in the mother's womb, very rapidly the neuronal connections happening. So which means the emotion of the mother, her feelings, her mental state affects the development of the child brain. It's very important. The mother is living in a happy, pleasant, joyful state. Then whatever the mother listens or whatever the mother sings, it becomes the core of the child's development. In Japan, they did a study. See, in Japan, there's a park. In that park, there's a big bell. In that park, pregnant mothers go for a walk. The bell has a specific kind ringing. So what they found, that the child is born, and even when the child has grown up, the moment the bell sound is heard, the person becomes very calm. So that means the sound of the bell is recorded deep in the child's memory. So even after the child grows up, the bell sound suddenly makes the person peaceful. So what inputs you give at a very early stage in life goes longer in life. You are not just giving a birth to the child, you are giving a life to the child. It's a lifelong journey. So there are stories in Purana how the child is taught in the mother's womb. Kayadu was wife of Hiranyakashyapa. Hiranyakashyapa was a asura with very negative qualities, demonic qualities. When the Hiranyakashipu has gone for a war, Kayadu, the wife of Hiranyakashipu, who is pregnant, she becomes the disciple of Narada Rishi, saint. So Narada tells the stories of Vishnu, Harikatha. So that stories go deep inside her consciousness, the child's consciousness. Mother doesn't know. Mother Kayadu sleeps. Mother Kayadu is listening to the story. Actually, Narada is telling the story to the child through the mother. Mother is just sleeps. So Prahlada becomes a great devotee and he realizes the God very early stage in life. Then we have a story of Abhimanyu, the son of Uttara. Sri Krishna tells Uttara how to penetrate the Chakravyuha, very complicated war game. So Uttara is sleeping, but Abhimanyu listens, and he is able to fight that when the war comes. So the teaching happens at the very early stage for a child. This you have to understand. Your emotions, your mother's emotions, what mother listens to, what mother sings, all those goes deep into the child. So you are not giving a birth to a child, you are giving a life to a child, which comes throughout the life, right? So need to choose right inputs for the education. Your education starts at home. That's why it said mother is the first guru. So mother is the first guru. Mother starts teaching even before the child is born. Okay. So now one thing which interesting happens is the child development starts, brain development starts very early stage. The brain, core of brain I'm speaking of, core of brain gets formed by 40% to 50% by the time child reaches age of 4. Core of brain. From 4 years to 9 years, another 40% gets formed. That means 90% of the child's brain core, inner core, is developed by the age of 9. Between the age of 9 to 18, another 10% core development happens. So that means by the age of 18, the child's inner core is developed fully. The inner core is responsible for emotions, stability, peace of mind, evolution. This is the inner core. But after that also you can learn. But it's more of a intellectual development. But the core is already formed. So between the age of 6 months prenatal to 4 months postnatal, 4 years postnatal, the influence is mother and the family, close family. 4 to 9 is the schooling system. 9 to 18 is friends. So this is where an opportunity to create a great being comes into picture. Evolved beings comes into picture. That's our ancestors understood the system. They put together a Shodasha Samskara, a well-defined process, and a way of educating the child in the early stage. So this inputs, what we give, can make a child a great enlightened being, like it happened in case of Vamadeva. Or it can be a great king, a powerful administrator, or powerful businessman. Do you know that out of top 100 top 100 successful businessmen in India, about 50 or 60 comes from one region and one community. Why? That community is around Gujarat and Marwar region. They're very powerful businessmen come in that. Why? Because in the child's family, every day money is discussed, business is discussed. Even in mother's womb, the child will only hear money, money, money. So the business plans are formed even when the child is getting born, business plans. So it's born in a business community. Similarly, when we speak of now politicians, we say, oh, politician's son has become, has come into politics. It's a dynasty politics. It's not. When the child is born in a political family, it keeps on hearing about the politics. So it gives early education compared to other people. Head start. So as parents, both of you have to have consensus. What type of child you want to grow? You want to be enlightened being, or you want to have a very powerful administrator, or you have to have a businessman, or you have to have a Brahmana, means one who is able to chant Veda mantras or understand Veda mantras, chant. So different type of education you have to choose for the child. So unfortunately, now most of the people think of, oh, which school I have to send, which this thing. When the child comes to the 8th standard, when the primary school, which school I have to add. Actually, you can think of the life of the child even before the child is born. What inputs you give becomes input. So there are two inputs for the child. One is a child comes from his past life vasana samskara. Past life samskara. Okay. So that will be predominant. So plus the input which you give shape the life. Very powerful spiritually evolved beings. Okay. When they come into the womb, and they come rarely, because the type of mother or father which required is very rare. The womb. To have Buddha as the child, or to have Ramakrishna Paramahamsa as a child, mother should be evolved, very evolved father. So when they come, they don't need education. They are there to educate the world. Many other people are in between somewhere. Okay. So what they do, the parents' lifestyle, parents' influence will affect the child. So there is a story of Madalasa in Markandeya Purana. You heard the Madalasa song. It's called Markandeya Purana. So in Madalasa song, the Queen Madalasa, she was an enlightened being. When the child is born, first child is born, the king is so happy. He gives a name, Vikrama, to the child. Vikrama means victorious. Child, as usual, when in the cradle, when it hears something, it starts crying. So then Madalasa tells the child, oh child, don't cry. And actually, when the king gives the name Vikrama, the mother starts laughing. What is this victory all about? Which victory are speaking of? Is the king doesn't understand all the spiritual teachings, right? Which victory? King says he will be victorious over the enemies. The mother says victory over the inner enemy is more important. Okay, your emotions, anger, kama, krodha, madhamasara, mohalova. So the mother laughs by the name. See, a powerful king is giving a name Vikrama, and mother laughs, mocks at him. Then she tells her, oh child, don't cry. You are not the body, you are not the mind, you are not the intellect. You are pure consciousness. Okay? You are Atma. The name, body, mind, intellect doesn't apply to you. Nanu, nanembudu, nanalla, ideha, manabuddhi, nanalla, Sachidanandatma, Shivanannani, Shivoham, Shivoham, Shivoham. She gives the teaching of enlightenment to the child, baby in the cradle. So what happens? At the age of 7, the child gets enlightened. He leaves the kingdom and goes. This kingdom is not for me. I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm pure soul, pure Atma. He goes out. So next child is born. And next child, the king gives the name Subahu. Bahu means strong arm, powerful arm. The mother again laughs. What kind of Subahu you are speaking of? Okay, the body is strong in the young youth and becomes old, and all strong arm will go. What Subahu you are speaking of? So the king is upset. But okay. So even that child, she gives a teaching of enlightenment. By the age of 7, the child enlightened goes. Now the third child is born. The third child, king gives Shatrugna. Shatrugna means destroyer of enemies. The mother again laughs. What enemies you are speaking of? Okay. It's enough to destroy the inner enemies. Be peaceful. And again, he gives the enlightenment teaching to the child. By the age of 7, the child is enlightened. And now the fourth child is born. Fourth child is, she's pregnant. Then the king says, please, this child, you don't give your teachings. Okay, I want somebody to take care of my kingdom. So then the Matalasa says, you don't give the name to the child. I'll give the name to the child. Okay. The child is born and mother gives a name. The name given to the child is called Alarka. Alarka. You know what is the meaning of Alarka? Mad dog. She says, mad dog is born, who is actually attached to the kingdom and rule the kingdom. Okay. The name gives Alarka, mad dog, to the child. Okay. First three children are enlightened. Right? King gave the name. Now mother says, one who is actually getting into the world is a mad dog. Okay. Then she doesn't give that enlightenment teaching to child. She gives dharmadnana, how to live a dharmic life, how to be a good king, how to rule the kingdom, how to fight the enemies. So become very powerful king. Of course, a good king, dharmic king. Okay. So that was the thing. Is for the first three children, she gives atmadnana. Next child, she gives a dharmadnana. And the child becomes grows up, becomes very powerful king, and Madalasa becomes, and he rules it well, rules the kingdom well. All the people are happy. Kingdom is very peaceful. He becomes a very good ruler also. So Madalasa is on the verge of death. She has become worse. She writes a message to her son. This message you read when you are in extreme difficulty. Before that, don't read. The message is kept in a box. So what happens? This king is very powerful. Then some enemies attack the kingdom. And when enemies attack the kingdom, okay, he loses. The kingdom is captured by enemies and he is roaming in the forest. He lost his kingdom. He is very upset. So then he remembers his mother's message. Open the message. So he opens the message. First message is, oh my son, I gave you name Alarka because this is a mad world. You are getting into the mad world. Okay, like a mad dog, you are wandering in the world. Okay, the first thing you have to realize, drop all attachments, including the kingdom, because attachment causes you sorrow. Okay, so first message is drop all attachments. Even kingdom is not yours. You have ruled the kingdom well, dharmadana is given, you have done the job, you have helped people. But if you have lost the kingdom, don't get attached to that. First thing is drop the attachment. Second message to the child is, what could be second message? Go into the company of wise people. Satsangatve, Nisangatvam, Nisangatve, Nirmohatvam, Nirmohatve, Nischaratatvam, Nischaratatve, Jivanmukti. So get into the company of wise people. So far you are in the company of all politicians, okay, ministers, politics. Now get into the company of wise people. That will help you to free from all the attachments. The third advice. Oh child, you will never be able to get happiness from the world. Only Atma Dhnana or self-realization is the happiness. Become a monk, sannyasa, drop everything and go. That's the third advice. So these are the three advices given by the mother. It's called Madalasa Upadesha. It's not hypothetical. Okay, this is actually, there was a queen called Madalasa. Her teaching. It's called Madalasa Upadesha. Madalasa, she gives the Upadesha to the child. We had such wise or enlightened beings also. So basically, what is the input you give to the child? In childhood makes a difference. My mother, right in my in the womb to all the way, she used to sing the story of Rama. There's a beautiful story of Rama in Konkani. She sings that. My father used to chant Ramaraksha Stotra and Vishnu Sahasranam. This, I think, what is the input? That time, no TV, no radio, other inputs were not there. Right? And mother's mother used to sing Narasimha Stotri by Shankaracharya Krita. So this is what I grew up. So definitely that has a lot of deep impact in the child. So when the mother is, when you are pregnant, 6 months to 9 months is very critical for the child. So that time, you should listen to the divine stories, Harikatha. Okay, don't listen forcefully. If you enjoy it, listen. Otherwise, if you feel, oh, I'm listening to story, but I'm not comfortable, don't do that. I'm saying you also should enjoy. The child should also get the input. So the Harikatha will help. Right? God's name chanting will help. Then Veda mantra chanting will help. It will create different vibration. And classical music, harmonious classical music, instrumental music, it will help. These are the things which will help in the development of the child. And child will communicate back to you by kicking. Okay, child will interact what it enjoys. So, and the whole thing should be continuous. Like after the birth also, whatever education you are given should be supported till the age of 4. After 4, anyway, child will go to LKG, play school and all. So, what is the environment, external environment you provide, right? So that also supports. When the child is born between the age of 4 up to the age of 4, about 50% of the child's brain is growing. So that's why we have to give a good inputs in terms of which will stimulate the senses: touch, sound, smell, taste, and form. The toys, the pictures, the images, the stories. In fact, people have experimented between the age of 0 to 4. The child can learn many languages also, foreign languages. After that, learning a language becomes difficult. Or child can learn mathematics. Or child can learn Bhagavad Gita fully. Because the child from 0 to from 6 months prenatal to 9 years postnatal, the brain development is very fast. So when that when the development is happening, the child is in what we call as delta or theta brain waves, which is actually helpful for programming. After 9 years, it enters into theta state, theta brain waves or alpha, mostly theta. Theta is execution. Whatever you learn, you'll execute. Then you can learn mathematics and all, but core development is already happened. So the programming mode, the child is in programming mode. At that time, what program you give becomes the basic samskara. So right program, right input is very important. After that, you can learn intellectually, but your emotions and other inner qualities already stabilized. The stories play a very important role in the child. Scientists, psychiatrists have studied the children with high emotion quotient, means emotional stability. People, they have studied the people for 20, 30 years. There are people who get emotionally disturbed very quickly. There are people who get emotional stability. What they found is that the children who received good stories in the early stages of life, that children have a longer or much more emotional maturity compared to other children. So that's why in our iLead program, we have a storytelling or Katha Jyoti program where we tell the stories. So you are building the culture, or you are building the character of the child in terms of stories. The stories go deep into subconscious. The stories, the games, the toys, the environment you expose by the time of age of 4 is very important. So what type of child, what is the character you imbibe, you have a very important role to play in this period. Any questions? You have any questions? Question here is, say, there's a modern psychology theory. They do not impose your views on the child. Okay? The child has a natural growth. Right. Don't force the child. The child will be happier if he follows the Let the child follow happily. So now here we are mixing up the inner core, emotional stability, the character building with the profession. So there are many people who force their child, you become a doctor, you become an engineer. They choose a career, right? My daughter, in our family, we are all engineers or doctors. My daughter said, I want to become an artist. Now, if I force her to become an engineer, then I am forcing her. I helped her to become an artist and she is very happy. So each of them, the child has an inborn urge, inborn talent to something. So that talent, what we call as talent, there is an artistic, the child can be right brain oriented. Then in that case, the child would like art, music, art, okay, dance. If the child brain is left brain oriented, language, mathematics, right? If you left brain oriented child you force into right brain activity, the child will not do well. Right brain oriented child you can force into left brain activity, it doesn't work. So all of us require something to live in the world. We have to contribute in the world, living. So don't force the child, see the natural tendency of child and encourage that is very important. Don't force. You are an engineer, okay? So don't make the child, don't force the child into engineering. If the child is right brain oriented, give the education for math, what do you call it, music, dance, creative field. Okay. So do not pressurize the child. But right now I'm speaking of prenatal education. Postnatal education is not at all about education. So it's a building the emotional strength, character of the child, okay, stimulate the inner qualities of the child, right? It is building the core. Now, what we are speaking of, psychiatrists are speaking of is about the career, about the life. So, with that, if you build a very beautiful inner core, emotional or spiritual core, where the child applies, how the child applies, doesn't matter. Do not pressurize the child into your career and into what you think, right? Our aspirations, our desires, we should not superimpose the child. But the parents have a very important role, building the emotional quotient, building the spiritual characteristics, building the what I call as character of the child. Okay, do not confuse this is the carrier, right? Any other questions? Is enlightened beings are produced by the parents or enlightened beings are born? There's a question. So I'll tell you, very, very evolved enlightened beings who have done a lot of sadhana in the previous life and who are very mature. They are born. Okay. Take the example of Buddha, take the example of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, or take the example of Shankaracharya, or take the example of what we call as Ramana Maharshi. So these enlightened beings are not produced, they are born. Sri Krishna, right? So they are not born like ordinary people. So that's why Sri Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma cha me divyam, yo veti tattvataha. My birth is divine. That means these beings are in such a high level of evolution, the birth is just a passage for them. It's not dependent on the parents. Of course, when enlightened beings are born, they need parents also who are very highly evolved. Okay, it is not like an ordinary birth. To give birth to Sri Krishna, Devaki and Vasudeva are required. Vasudeva and Devaki represent the enlightened parents. The parents are also in high level of evolution. Buddha's mother was called Maya. She was a very evolved being. Shankara's mother or Ramakrishna Paramahamsa's mother, they are evolved beings. So, an enlightened being, to be born, it requires a right womb, right type of mother. Not enlightened being doesn't take birth in ordinary wombs. But it doesn't require education. the enlightened beings who are being born, they are not there to be educated. They are born to educate. What is the input you will give? So, in that sense, the enlightened beings for avatar pushas or who are very evolved in spiritual journey do not require further education in the wombs of mother. But of course, they're looking for a very sattvic parents to be born. Now, I'm speaking of other children who are evolved but may not be very highly evolved. The early parenting, prenatal education, postnatal education give them a beautiful life. So we are not speaking of rank students. We are speaking of first class students, average students, right? Like that. So the person can be in different level of evolution. Depending on the level of evolution, whatever is there, the good parenting can help him to evolve. Is the answer clear? Okay. See, there is one saying, a mango seed, if you put into mud or dust or dustbin, it will sprout as a mango seed. Right? Similarly, a very evolved being doesn't depend on circumstances for a sprouting. Whereas some other seed requires a fertilizer and water properly to sprout. The seed has inherent characteristics. So you can help it, help the child, help the seed by providing right inputs. Swami Vivekananda says, the purpose of education is to help bring out the inherent divinity in each of us. That's education. Right? So right now education has become not about divinity, but how to survive in the world. The real education is when the inherent divinity in the child comes out. The individual becomes a Shakti. Vyakti becomes Shakti. Vyakti will become Shakti when the divinity comes out. So that's education. And that education responsibility, early stage of responsibility lies with the mother and father and the family. So now, will this apply to all? Not possibly. A very evolved being doesn't require any further input. They have come there to teach. Whereas other people, they definitely get help by education. It's like children want to go to IIT. Okay. There are brilliant students. They don't need any coaching. They just get into IIT and get into. But there are some students who are good. They with the coaching, they'll right coaching, they can get into IIT. Like that, we can help average and first class students to get a rank. A rank student doesn't need any help. There's the understanding. Is the answer clear? So